everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to review the Netflix movie, the Netflix animated movie, The Witcher Nightmares. I think it's The Nightmare of Wolves. I think it's called The Nightmare of the Wolf. The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf. And the title makes sense when you actually know what it's about. So this is a animated tie-in, sort of sorts, with the Witcher TV show, the Henry Cavil Witcher TV show. It's not really an animated, it's not like an animated, like, because, and you can tell it's a tie-in because the logo is the same, the way they did the wolf medallion is the same, like the way they do, the way they describe a lot of things are the same, so it's an animated tie-in. Now, we've heard about this for a little bit. I believe they're gonna do some other spin, like they're trying to do a shit ton, I enjoyed The Witcher's Henry Cavill show. I thought it was fun. It had some great things. It had some things that I didn't like the time stuff. I hated the time stuff. Good God, I hated the time stuff. I've talked about that before. But it had things that I liked. And Henry Cavill grew on me as Geralt of Rivia. Like, in the beginning, I do think he's a little too... from the video game, I'm just going from a video game perspective, I do think Henry Cavill's a little too jacked up to be Geralt, because Geralt's not jacked, he's muscular, but when I see him in the video game, at least from what I've noticed, he's more shredded than beef, you know what I mean? And Henry Cavill's beef. So, that took me a while just to adjust to that, and just to adjust to hearing Henry Cavill's voice over the voice actor who does Geralt in the, or Geralt in the video game series. So it was an adjustment period, but by the time it had gotten to the end, I had accepted Henry Cavill's version. I had because you can tell Henry Cavill's is a massive fan, and it's always great to see fans of something get there. It's always great. I was just watching the Star Wars making of the Mandalorian finale, and it was just the enthusiasm of those guys working on that show, where they are fans and it's oozing. The same thing with Henry Cavill as he's doing this. You can tell he is a fan of this mythology. He is a fan of these books, of these video games, and he just wants to give it the best he can give it. And his enthusiasm and his fandom does come through in his character, which in turn made me go, okay, I'm willing to go around. I'm willing to just accept this version of the character and roll with you. But like I said, I still I think they could have cast better. But anyways, still I'm over it. But so this movie is an animated tie-in following Vesemir. Yes, Vesemir, the man who taught Geralt of Rivia how to fight. Vesemir. Now I never played the first two Witcher games, so I don't know too much about Vesemir outside of Witcher. Outside of what's directly talked about up top in Witcher 3. Now, you guys know I think Witcher 3 is one of the greatest video games ever freaking made, with the single greatest DLC ever produced in Blood and Wine. But Vesemir in that game was always a fun character. He was this wise, crafty, older Witcher who clearly has seen a lot, clearly has been through a lot. He had this witheredness to him, but he had this... there are men and women who have an air of wisdom about them, whose eyes and scars and wrinkles tell a story, who just, they could just tell you stuff. There are just men and women, older, men and women, who have a story, who have lived interesting and fulfilling lives. Well, maybe not fulfilling, but just interesting and just lives who have lived insane lives, that they have a story for every situation you need to deal with. And that's how I always felt about Vesemir in Witcher 3. He was always this calming presence. He was always this voice of reason, this older man, and he had a sense of humor to him. He wasn't always hard. He wasn't always rough-edged. He had a sense of humor to him. There was a kindness to him, even though and he would show it occasionally. I love Vesemir, and when he died in Witcher 3, it was a heartbreaking moment. I mean, you see it coming a mile away, but it's still a heartbreaking moment, So this show takes place a long time ago. Now, I don't know how many years ago, but put it this way. Vesemir is younger He is much younger. He is much sprier. He's about the same age. He's about the same age as Geralt is in the Witcher franchise. So it must have been quite a while ago. And I don't know how Witchers age. I've never gotten that. It's the same thing with like vampires. You know what, the same thing. I assume it's kind of like vampires, where like if someone is born a vampire, you know, they age up to they age normal until they're at their physical prime, and then they stop aging. That's how I just assume Witchers age. I just assume that they age normally until they reach their, prime, and then they just stop aging. Like, that's how I assume it works for Witchers. So, I would just assume, because with Vesemir, I'm just like, it had to have been a long time ago, because he had black short hair and the beard, and he's awesome, really. He reminds me of Trevor Belmont from the Castlevania franchise, because he's this aloof, wisecracking / nonchalant badass who knows how to wield his blades, who knows how to use his potions, who knows how to use his magic, who takes down creatures, who only cares about the coin. He's like, honestly, he's a lot like this. Like, honestly, after playing the video games and whatnot, I'm like, you know what? I can buy that this is what a younger version of him looked like. I can buy that a version of him who hadn't been through as much as he had been through by the time Witcher 3 happens and whatnot, that this is what he looked like. This is what he was like. He was kind of this arrogant, dickbag kind of character who just kind of was out for himself and, for his comrades and whatnot. And it was really cool seeing Cam Morin. I don't know if I'm ever saying it right, but Geralt's and them it looks like a castle to me, but like the whole fortress that they had where they were making the Witchers, and you see it in Witcher, and you see it in Witcher 3. You see it in Witcher 3, but it's not but it's all run down and there's holes in the wall, and clearly there's been battles there, and there's holes all over the place, and that, I mean, it's holding together, it's not like it's completely falling apart, but clearly it's seen better days. And you learn in The Witcher, at least I remember learning in The Witcher 3, that something bad happened there that won't. The reason that there aren't many Witchers in The Witcher 3 is because not only are the mages who created the Witchers dead, but the ways to create Witchers have been lost. The books to create them have been destroyed, and no one really knows how to create Witchers anymore. Henceforth, there aren't any Witchers. But in this show, as we see, we follow Vesemir. We go on this journey with Vesemir, as not only do we discover how he became a Witcher, why he became a Witcher, we get to see a bit more into his past, we get to see more. There's this beautiful story done with a lover that he has, with a childhood lover of his, that has a beautiful wrap-up that I thought was just well done. I've seen this done terribly before, but the love story that he had with a childhood lover of his, I thought it was so heartfelt and so well done. The animation is phenomenal. Really great animation. Awesome action sequences. The action is cool as fuck. It's right on par with Castlevania. And Castlevania had some epic action set pieces. And really, the story is you get to find out what happened to Cam. Like I said, I never know if I'm saying it right. Cam Morin. I just say it really quickly and hope I'm saying it correctly. Cam Morin. You find out what happened I forgot what the wolf, the name of Geralt's actual tribe, because I know there's a couple different ones. There's a bear and an eagle, the medallions, there's different Witcher groups. But you get to find out what happened to that place. You get to find out what happened to that place. You get to find out what happened to all the Witchers. Why are there only, because in Witcher 3, you see 5 Witchers, I think. I'm only remembering 4. It's Geralt, Vesemir. There's a couple other jackasses who are there. The one guy who could choose to kill and maybe not kill, who you fight in the second game that I never beat. There's not a lot of you don't see a lot of Witchers. There aren't a lot. But it's kind of, there's a night, you know what? When I was watching this animated movie, you know what it reminded me of? There's a Knight of the Old Republic vibe to it. Where it's you get to see, and it's kind of crazy because in the Witcher game, monsters are rabid. They're all over the fucking place. And there's only a couple Witchers alive who can take care of it. But in this, it's the exact opposite. There are so many Witchers that there's barely any monsters left because there's so many witchers killing monsters that there's barely any monsters, which means there might not be any need for witchers. And there's a whole story there that I'm not going to spoil for you, but if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you probably get what the plot might be about. But that's so interesting seeing it in reverse because it has a prequel vibe to it, like a Knights of the Old Republic, or like I said, a prequel vibe to it, which is like, if you watch the original trilogy, you hear about like Jedi being like rumored, and you only see meet one Jedi, and it's an old green dude, and Luke becomes a Jedi, and then you watch the prequels, you're like, oh, look at all these fucking Jedi, And that's the vibe I got from watching this. It had that kind of a vibe of, man, like we're getting to see, the heyday of Witchers, or maybe not the heyday, but like a different time during the Witchers, where the Witchers were plentiful, where, where there weren't that many creatures out and about, like there wasn't that many creatures out and about, where this is probably the safest point in that time period in terms of, monster control, because I don't want to spoil anything for you, but essentially the Witchers have done too good of a job in this time period. Like, it's crazy to think, but around Vesemir, and when Vesemir was in his prime, they did too good of a job. So that's kind of funny. They did too good of a job, and there's a lot of hints and nods to the games and to the TV show, and to things that happen in the books. I never read the books, but I heard they're pretty good. But there's nods to things and hints there and whatnot. But overall, I had a good time with this movie. It was fun. It was quick. Honestly, I wish it was a show, because I could have watched young Vesemir for a little bit longer, because young Vesemir was a bad motherfucker. Like I said, he reminded me, he had the same exact vibe as Trevor Belmont from Castlevania. Same vibe, same build, same attitude, same moral ambiguity, the same thing. It felt like that, and I had a great time watching him. It's fun now to like have this in the back of my mind now when I think about the Witcher game, to think like, yeah, Vesemir was a bad motherfucker back in his prime. He was just as badass as Geralt, maybe even badass, more badass. Granted, the animation's so over the top that like it's gonna make, like, it is gonna kind of be one of those things where it's like, yeah, either the standards for being a Witcher have drastically dropped, because ain't nobody doing any of this shit he's doing. He's flying through the sky and hooking the fucking monsters and killing them in the sky and shit. It's like, I never got to do any of that in a video game, and I never saw Henry Cavil do that in the show. But anyways, other than that, I had a good time with this. I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an 8.5, in fact. I had a good time watching this. It's a quick little watch, I wish they could have done more with it. I wish it should have been a show. It should have been a show just about young Vesemir. I would have dug it. I'd have dug the fuck out of it. But it's okay. It's okay. I got a little shot of coffee called The Witcher, The Nightmare of the Wolf. And you find out, and it's called just in case you didn't pick it up, it's called The Nightmare of the Wolf, because you find out what happened to that fucking place, and what happened to all the fucking Witchers. Why aren't there that many Witchers by the time Witcher 3 happens? Anyways, thank you guys for joining me on the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.